Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we are going to look at a Riley gunstone. This is one that has sat around for so long. I've given it a wipe, but it's been sitting on the desk so long. You can see there's boulder dust everywhere, Cooper Pedy dust. But yeah, Riley, otherwise known as Opals on Opal Auctions. There's a quick shot of his business card, front and back. So we unboxed this one a while back, quite a long time ago, and it's just a hell of a challenge stone. It is a Boulder Opal, one of my favorites. And Riley sent it over because it is an incredibly challenging stone. If we have a look, and I zoom all the way in, if we have a look at it zoomed all the way in, you can't really see much. And that's because there are just a few hairline thick. This is the thickest part of the opal. So little hairline thick opal seams. They're wavy, they go all the way through. There's nothing after this hard shelf. Well, maybe a little bit over here. But most of them are tiny little specks over here. If I dip my finger in some water, even after doing that, you can see it's just really thin lines. And the challenge is to try to get some sort of face that looks pretty cool coming down from up here. So, challenge accepted. Let's get this underway. Toughest, most time-consuming carving I've done in a while. So we'll skip through a lot of it because I spent 5 hours on this. So the rough scrubbing, I'm just going at it with the 120 grit sintered diamond, just getting rid of a whole heap of material right until it starts peeking through. So this is what you expect to see on those really thin bars. Really thin. Pencil lines have been much thicker than these bars, so incredibly thin. We're just grinding down to them, but really you want to pull up just short like I have here. This is the really good bar on that back corner. And you don't really want to hit that with something like a 120 grit sintered diamond. It will absolutely evaporate faster than you could imagine. So I'm just getting pretty close to it. You don't really know exactly when it's going to come through, but the opal does give you a little bit of a hint. You can see it just through the ironstone a bit. And what I do is paint outwards. So you're basically brushing outwards from where the color starts. Find one nice little pocket and then brush out from there. So the 600 grit sintered diamond is where I feel much more comfortable. This ironstone was rubbing off so quickly, I changed to the 600 grit pretty fast. You can see that there's not a lot of opal coming through yet, but I'm still very happy to use the 600 because look how fast it just disappears. Like butter, it's really useful. Really easy to get through it, but at the same time, really easy to get too far through it. And now I don't want to speed anything up because I want to show you the technique that I'm using here. It really is just brushing away from the opal. You don't want to touch the opal once you can see it. You're just getting rid of that ironstone on the surface. It'll dip and weave all the way through the opal, so you've got to be careful. There will be spots that you can't just drill all the way through. You will end up just going straight through the bar. These things are not overly intact a lot of the time. Not when it's this thin. So don't be surprised if you see little spots of ironstone, and don't be too disappointed either. You can leave them in and you can get some really nice looking stones. You can see here I'm getting through it quite well, and a lot more of this clears up, which is great, but it is incredibly time consuming. I would have spent 5 hours on this stone in total, maybe a little bit more. So I'm just being incredibly careful, leaving that color on the top because I wasn't too sure at this time whether I wanted to keep it or not. At the moment, it's like a reverse coloring in book. You're just avoiding the color and just painting between the lines and watching the ironstone just disappear. It does come out really well, which is very pleasantly surprising. So here you can see I'm getting pretty far through it, but I realized that this area here was not that great, and I just want to buzz straight through it because that bar underneath is really promising. And I don't know if it's going to continue further. So I do a little technique here where I keep it right above the level of the water and just buzz away. It doesn't splash everywhere, which is really helpful. Well, that's that, and it's hard to actually show off this stone. It does actually look much better than I thought it was going to come out to be in the end, honestly, because when you get these tiny little hairline thick bars within this Boulder Opal, Boulder Opal's a weird one. Like, it may look a bit seamish, but it really doesn't behave like that. These lines are thin and they can disappear in a heartbeat. Now the corner that I was really interested was this one. If you can get bars this thick, which isn't really that thick at all, we're talking tiny, but much thicker than here where you can barely see them unless you get the light angles right. If you can get ones that have these kind of interweaving bars, you can end up with a full face. But as you can see here, they dart and dive around. Unfortunately, this one shoots upwards here and seems to have disappeared. It never fully merged over here. There is a chance that this bar can keep going, but I have spent, I don't know, this is probably 5 hours in the making here because of how careful I was being, just checking each one of those tiny little bars. Because if you do come across a face that you really like, you're always going to have this ironstone and a stone like this, but if you come across a face you really like the look of, and I'm not too unhappy with this one here, you just want to stop. You just want to stop and settle for that, because you could end up losing it all, or you could end up better, but it's highly slim. As slim as these bars are, it's very slim chances. I was just really hopeful of this corner. It was looking pretty full-faced. This ironstone here will actually work out. I just don't want to do it with the sintered diamond. You want to switch over to the Nova points to do that. And over here, it's a pretty nice stone. And you can get it polished up from this point. It is still a little uneven if you look at the top from the side shot here. I think I can work a bit more in this area here, but unfortunately this bar really seems like it's petering out. But Boulder Opal, being what it is, even the thinnest bar can also be incredibly bright. So it will make for an interesting piece. If I don't get any great colour, like this isolated little pocket over here, I could buzz through and try to hit one of those ones underneath. I'm actually thinking of slicing that off and keeping this because it's such a bright, flashy little corner. So I might do that as well. Might just give it a quick little slice off because there's a couple mils there. I can do a pretty precise slice across there, keep that, and then maybe hit that bottom one, see if it's the continuation of this really colourful area here, because that's where I thought I was going to get a full face. Now I couldn't really show off how cool this stone was during the carving part, mostly because the Boulder Opal mud gets everywhere. But here I can keep it in the water and just have a good play around with it. It's definitely an interesting piece. But unfortunately, the Riley challenge was never really honestly going to yield a clean face. You would have to be so incredibly lucky. As careful as you can be with the carving and as undulating as you can handle, it's just sometimes it's just not going to work out. These bars are going up and down and they're very sharp. They can turn in an instant. And you have to be able to handle that. And the technique of just finding a nice patch of color and then just slowly working your way out is really the only way you can do it. You can't just press this up against a flat lap and hope for the best. You're going to end up with just chunks of ironstone left, right, and center, and a few pockets of color maybe when you get onto one of these kind of thin seams. But even that thin seam, it dives and darts around everywhere. So you've really got to chase it with the burrs really carefully too. Which is not too bad because the ironstone, it disappears real quick. It's just the thin color bar will disappear twice as quick. Well, that's what you'll feel like anyway. You can't really cut this stuff blind. The feeling difference between a little bit of opal and a little bit of ironstone or a mix, it's negligible at best. And at worst, you don't feel it at all. You can buzz through all of this and not even know it was there if you don't look at it carefully. So just keep dipping and brushing over with the burr and just keep dipping away and keep washing it away. It is better when you're not recording to just have dripping water. Dripping water saves a lot of time. This would have taken me half the time if I had running water that I could just spray on the surface while I was carving, but because of recording, that becomes really difficult. So on that note, I'm going to leave it here. This stone I will probably have on the channel again because I want to polish it up. People are always asking how to polish stones with ironstone in the face. So I might tizzy this up a little bit more in the middle here, make it a little bit more of an interesting shape. And then yeah, it'll be back for a polishing. Stay tuned. Lots more Boulder Opal to come. Heaps of people wanted it, but heaps of other things as well. So we will move on. And I'll see ya when I see ya.